Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Kittitian Prime Minister conducts his first visit to Dubai to showcase the Twin Island Federation. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Monday, 5th December 2022. Details when we return. Welcome back. Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis leads delegation on working trip to Dubai. Andre Huey of SKN Newsline reports.
Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew is conducting his first working visit to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates from Tuesday, the 29th of November to Saturday, December 3rd. A press release from the Prime Minister's office said that he is being accompanied by Minister of Tourism Marsha Henderson, the Attorney General Garth Wilkin, the Cabinet Secretary Dr. Marcus Natta, Mr. Sylvester Anthony, and Ms. Vera Galloway. The visit provides an opportunity for St. Kitts and Nevis to show the world that it is open for business and is ready to attract investors who seek mutually beneficial partnerships with the nation, the release added. The Prime Minister will identify new areas of collaboration in advancing economic recovery and stability and reaffirming the solid foundation between the two countries. The Embassy of St. Kitts and Nevis will host an exclusive cocktail event on Thursday, December 1st, for the investors, citizens, and business partners to meet the Prime Minister and his delegation. The Prime Minister's visit comes at a time when the economies of many countries are affected by the lingering impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and by the consequences of the Ukraine-Russia conflict. The release noted that the visit is also aimed at deepening relationships with important stakeholders, including international investors and government-approved agents, who play a vital role in promoting and supporting the country's recently upgraded Citizenship by Investment program. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline.
Jamaica's state of emergency no vote explained by PNP leader Mark Golding on TVJ News.
Earlier this week, I spoke to John Mahfood of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, who expressed a great disappointment that the opposition had not voted to support. Doesn't the level of disapproval and disagreement with the opposition's position bother you?
We would like for the business community to see it our way, but they have been consistent in supporting states of emergency over the last few years. Our position is that we don't support it for a number of reasons. First of all, we feel that there's a strong argument that it is unconstitutional. There have been two cases in which the courts have ruled against it in a variety. One tackling the regulations themselves, the other more broadly questioning the use of it in the way the government's been using it as a kind of routine crime-fighting tool. And the truth of the matter is that despite its regular use over the last 5 or so years, the rate of murders in Jamaica has continued to spiral. And we feel it is really not an effective strategy because it focuses on detention rather than investigation and prosecution. The security forces, the leadership there, have indicated that they have around 300 known persons who are extremely violent, they call them violence producers, that are really the targets. But you can't be taking away the rights of 1 million to 2 million people to tackle the task of getting those 300 people, or whatever that number is, off the streets.
I know you have a proposal for that, and I'm going to come to that in just a moment. But before you leave the SOEs, Gordon Robinson, writing in the Gleaner on Sunday, said he agreed with your position that the states of emergency provisions are not to be used as a crime-fighting tool, but he said, what I find pathetic is that the opposition has been belly aching about this aspect of the abuse of SOEs for years, but has never sought to litigate the issue as it did with NIDS. As viewers probably know, the opposition went to court over the NIDS bill and it was declared unconstitutional. Gordon Robinson says for the umpteenth time, Mark Golding told MPs that the PNP had an opinion from eminent counsel lawyer on this since 2017.
2019.
Thank you. So why not sue? Why not clear this up once and for all?
One person may have died as a result of taking the COVID-19 vaccine in St. Vincent.
One person may have died as a result of being injected with the COVID-19 vaccine, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Simone Bache told the High Court on Wednesday, on day one of the vaccine mandate lawsuit. Her admission was contained in an affidavit she filed in support of the government's response to the legal challenge. In her affidavit, the chief advisor to the government on public health matters said that of the 53,852 doses of COVID-19 vaccines administered in SVG by November 26, 2021, there were 25 documented reports of adverse effects, most of which were slight to moderate. The CMO said this shows that the risk of an adverse effect in SVG was 0.046%. She said that of the 25 cases, 2 people required hospital admission, while the other people were managed without admission. Additionally, the CMO noted that there was, however, 1 person who died in January 2022 and who had progressive weakness, which may have been due to the serious adverse effects following vaccination with a COVID-19 vaccine. She said the patient was 55 years old and retired with a history of an endocrine disorder. The patient received the first dose of AstraZeneca in April 2021 and the second in May 2021. While in the United States in the summer of 2021, the patient was observed to have memory loss, shaking of hands, and communication changes. A diagnosis of dementia was initially made by the physicians in the United States, the affidavit stated.
Over in St. Lucia, a person of interest has been taken into police custody for the death of a nurse.
Kezia Wilson's body was discovered in her vehicle near her home at Goodlands, Cass Street, on November 22. She was a victim of an apparent shooting. Her death rocked the entire nation, knowing the jovial and kind-hearted individual she was, according to her friends, family, work colleagues, and patients who knew the nurse. The nurse was also said to be a vibrant, outspoken, ambitious, and talented woman with an infectious smile and a passion for her profession. Her death has affected not only the nursing fraternity, but also the medical fraternity and the support as well as administrative staff of MHMC.
We find that too many times women have become victims of violence and the issue of domestic violence. So it is one that we have to continue to effect changes, pass legislations, and then use intelligence and other means of addressing the crime situation.
St. Lucia is now facing a dire shortage of nurses, and losing 1 nurse, especially under these circumstances, is one too many. However, the nurses are resilient and continue to provide care to the general public despite. A statement from MHMC said, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force is also appealing to citizens of St. Lucia to come forward with information about this incident.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. The Acting Police Commissioner of Trinidad and Tobago says there have been breaches in courier services and in particular a well-known large courier service, and that these breaches are making it harder to deal with illegal guns entering the country. He shared this while announcing the police have recovered more than 600 guns for the year so far. TV6's Jewel Brown reports.
Acting Police Commissioner MacDonald Jacob had first told the Parliament's Joint Select Committee on National Security on Wednesday that the police had recovered 526 firearms for the year so far.
I just want to correct some figures. I said 526 is 626 in relation to the recovery of firearms. I just want to correct that for the record.
During the hearing, the Comptroller and Deputy Comptroller of Customs and Excise were grilled by members of the committee over the number of illegal guns that have been making their way into Trinidad and Tobago via the legal ports of entry. That Acting Police Commissioner spoke about the efforts of the police service to get illegal guns off the streets and issues regarding courier services that operate in Trinidad and Tobago.
As I mentioned in relation to the problem with firearms, and I said it directly connect with narcotics. And we have the FedEx, system where in some instances drugs and firearms, and we have several detections here with our cooperation with the customs, right? And we have the one area, and we talk about these Swiss ports and all the other places, but we have a whole list of different locations in relation to the FedEx where it have been breached in relation to the courier service.
The acting top cop said there are some other minor ones, as committee member and independent Senator Paul Richards provided some additional data.
But the main one we have identified is the FedEx.
And those are citizens or companies importing these?
Right. In some instances, persons were in fact charged in relation to these particular.
And finally, because I know time is against us, the SSA gave us the market value of the illegal gun, 100 million in 2017, 190 million in 2019, in 2021, 144 million, with an average of 17,429 TT dollars per weapon. That's the average.
Senator Richards sought to find out if the police commissioner had a sense of the size of the authorized gun market in Trinidad and Tobago, inclusive of ammunition and the range of weapons being imported.
Well, in relation to the illegal guns on paper, right, we have seen that within probably the last 3 years or so, on paper, we've seen about 124,000 firearms on paper that was requested to come into the country. However, from data that we have, physical data that we receive from the customs up to this point, we see an average of 17,000. Right, the license that was required by the dealers is showing those numbers coming out of the particular audit report. Is showing that kind of number.
The acting top cop said he was waiting on additional data from the Customs and Excise Division. Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
Should nominees for top posts in the police service appear before Parliament to be questioned by MPs? That question arose in the House of Representatives on Friday last, as the nomination of 2 acting Deputy Police Commissioner appointments were debated. So, what did the Prime Minister have to say? Jewel Brown again of TV6 News reports.
On Friday, Prime Minister Dr. Kirowly piloted 2 motions of notifications from President Paula May Weeks on the nominations by the Police Service Commission for Assistant Police Commissioner Ramnarayan Samaru and Acting Assistant Police Commissioner Kurt Simon to act as Deputy Commissioners of Police. In responding on behalf of the opposition, Naparima MP Rodney Charles disagreed with the Prime Minister's explanation for the delay in debate of the motion for ACP Samaru. Mr. Charles then said acting appointments for police commissioner and deputy police commissioners should be made swiftly.
You have to look in the U.S. Senate to see the actual kind of questions that a co-equal branch gives to every appointment, including the appointment of the U.S. ambassador to Trinidad and every judicial appointment and every senior position within the executive of the United States. We as a co-equal branch have repeatedly told, come here, read the thing, rubber stamp and only ask questions.
In winding up the debate for Mr. Samaru's nomination, Prime Minister Rowley appeared to have sought clarification from MP Charles.
To make comparisons of what is happening in the American Senate, there's one missing component. And that component is the actual officer comes before the committee and that officer is spoken to by the committee. Is it that which is being recommended now by the member?
The Prime Minister said the process was going very well before the High Court ruling that acting appointments for the top posts in the police service must be approved by Parliament.
It is since the Parliament has got involved in this process that it has become the subject of this political animation that we're seeing here and the casting of slurs. And I therefore have no confidence that if the individual officers come before this House, that any improvement will flow because of the behavior of my colleagues.
MP Charles said the matter ought not to be a matter for the legislative body.
Our political leader says it repeatedly, and I will say it again. Bring good legislation to Parliament and you will get our support.
The Prime Minister offered a response.
You say no, it's a waste of time. Let's agree on that. Do I take it that when I bring the nomination here, when I bring the legislation here, the amendment, that we'll have the support of our colleagues on the other side? Do I take it that that's a commitment you give? Because the record doesn't show that we can think so. But I take you at your word. The amendment will come. And when it comes, we will know exactly what your commitment is.
Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.